Welcome back to Aspire Higher with Charles and Yvana Bailey. We are excited to be here. Of course, we're always excited. I don't think there's ever been an episode
we're excited.
where we honestly
stay lit.
We do. We stay lit, man. I mean, can we get sponsored by Bic? Well, that'd be weird because all right, whatever.
Bitcoin?
So, no, golly, just like my wife. All right, that's so beautiful. She is beautiful, y'all. Well, check this out. We have an incredible friend on the pod today, my man Jeff T. Osborne.
Come on.
The T is specific, but this man is an international speaker, global voice, not just a minister, preacher. This man teaches and coaches Fortune 500 companies, CEOs, executives, people in government. Man, it's kind of crazy. This guy's everywhere, but I'm telling you, watch this. This story, though.
Come on.
What he's been through to get where he is today and what he's yet becoming is going to inspire you. I can't wait for him to tell you about his journey, what he faced, even overcoming homelessness and facing another home that no one wants to stay in, almost for life, prison. What a great story. My man, Jeff, welcome to the pod, man.
What up, baby? How y'all doing?
Good.
to be here.
We're glad that you're here, man. I mean, wherever you are. I mean, shoot. Are you in L.A.? Where are you at?
Yeah, just outside of L.A. I'm in Chino Hills, a city called Chino Hills.
Oh, Chino, okay.
So not too far. It's funny because L.A. tries to claim us as a suburb, and Orange County tries to claim us as a suburb. But, we're in a different county. So, yeah, but just outside, 30 minutes outside of L.A.
That's it.
So, yeah, not too far.
It's because y'all too cool. First of all, let me tell you something. Jeff, that boy can dress.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
You don't understand now. Jeff be
Style,
doing stuff.
fashion,
Hey,
and it's who you are. I
It's
love
real.
that. It's his expression, and I love it. Listen, I just came out of Pebble Beach, Monterey, and you talk about fashion, but it's one thing to have fashion, right?
Yeah.
It's another thing to own your fashion.
That's what I was
when you look
hoping
at Jeff, this
Jeff
brother right here, he got
owns
it.
it.
He got it.
My brother had like some bell-bottom chinos. I don't know, they were wide, right? And then you got
Like
the
gaucho
round,
pants?
the gaucho, the round shape. My boy was cool. And see, we pay
Expression.
attention, bro. I love it.
I see y'all. You know, it's funny. When people see my fashion, when they see my glasses, I'm known for my glasses, right? So they are prescription,
Okay.
not just for looks.
Okay.
But but I'm not blind. But your boy got, I figured, look,
I'm pretty close to blind, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I have those, but also just my fashion, even in itself, was just such a part of my journey because it's who I am and my identity. And I used to be afraid that if I dress this way, I got earrings, I got a nose ring, I got tattoos all over.
Yeah.
I was so afraid that it would limit the doors or the opportunities or the rooms that I would go in, that I began to try to make myself somebody else to fit in.
Come on.
Until God says, hold on. If somebody doesn't want to hear what you have to say and it potentially can change your life based on the threads that you wear or based on a piercing or a type of art that you choose to wear on your body, then that's not the right audience.
Let them
for
miss
you.
it.
That's
And
right.
so when I learned that, I said, look, then God, I'm going to be 100% me. I love fashion, the bold, bright, big glasses, you name it.
Yes,
That's
sir.
who I am because that's how I live life, loud, large, and love.
I was just gonna say it. Right. That's a catalyst
love
for
that.
you. Loud, large,
Yes.
and love.
Yes. I love
Bro,
I mean, come
man,
on,
where'd that come from? Was it just your own journey that brought that out?
Yeah, it was. I actually, big shout out to a friend of mine named Austin. He has an incredible branding company called Brand TJ.
Okay.
And so I do a Bible study with a group of CEOs from all over the nation. And he's one of the guys who were in the CEO meeting. He says, hey, look, man, Jeff, I'd love to sit down with you and just kind of help you kind of dial in your brand. This was probably about 5 years ago. And he asked me, he says, man, if I look at your life, tell me some words that start. And so I just start shooting out words and things like that. And he says, man, when I hear you, when I think about you, the words that describe, if I look at you, is loud, large, and love.
I love
when he
that.
means loud, it's not just like the tonality of my lips, but when your life is loud, it means people want to know where that noise is coming from. It means that whatever I do, I'm making noise, whether I'm in my job, whether I'm at church and ministry, whether I'm in my field that I'm in business, I'm going to be so loud because of the actions and the anointing on my life. You're going to look and say, yo, what's that noise coming?
Sir.
And then loud, large, that means, look, I'm not doing nothing small. I'm going to go as big as God has called me to go because I'd rather have 50% of a large dream than 100% of a small one.
Come on.
That type of mentality.
That's wisdom.
So everything I do, I don't want to be small. God's not a small God. I want to be as big. I want to go as grand as I can because that's the God that we serve. And then love. for so many years, I lived a life that I didn't love. I lived a life that everybody loved for me,
Say it
but it
again,
wasn't a
Jeff.
life that I loved. Yeah.
Whoa.
I lived a life that everybody loved for
He's like, I
me, but
will.
it
Wow.
wasn't a life that I loved. And so
Yes.
that was for me, but it was so huge because I said, look, at the end of the day, if I'm going to stand before you, God, I want to make sure that I squeezed out everything that I said I need to squeeze out without me being a people pleaser, without me being caught up in somebody else's opinion. So I said, I'm going to go as loud and as large as I can.
Oh my
I love
gosh.
that. How did you break
Yeah.
out of being a people pleaser? Tell me where that came from.
Girl, that's a whole nother.
Is that a book?
So, no. Look, I'll tell you because that's a perfect.
The
so
new
this
book.
Is, so this is the recent book that this is actually my mug shot
What?
when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
Facing 16 years to life for 6 armed robberies and attempted murder.
Wow.
Whoa.
And I was framed by some of the guys on my team, and it was just a terrible story. But the reason why I put this here is because this mugshot was a result of me trying to fit in with everybody else because I was afraid to stand out. And this was a photo that led to me being incarcerated in prison. And the book is called Prison Break: How to Avoid 7 Biggest Mistakes That People Make That Keep Us Chained in the Prison of People Pleasing. And in this book, I began to talk about how I was in a physical prison because I didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wanted to be everything that everybody else wanted me to be. And ultimately, when I talk about people pleasing, when we struggle with the disease to please, it's because we've magnified the opinions of man more than we've magnified God.
You better believe it.
And so when I live my life pleasing man and I make man my source, then what I do is I live the rest of my life trying to please man because I believe the lie that the only way that I can get what I truly desire is to get it from them. And how I broke out of it, to answer that question, was the greatest thing, and it's in a nutshell. It goes so much deeper, but if I had to like dial it into like a phrase, if you
can
will,
go deeper.
I had to recognize, So I had to recognize that God was my source.
Yeah.
And how I came to that realization was Nadia and I had pastored for 10 years. My wife and I had pastored 10 years. We had our own church. And then we had some church drama where it was supposed to be signed over to us. We built the church to several hundred people from like 89. And when the church was supposed to be signed over, the pastors sent us on an anniversary trip. And while we were in Mexico, we get calls from the church and they told us that the pastor's coming back to take over the church. So when we landed, everything was stripped from us.
Wow.
And then I'm like, okay, God, forget it, bump it. Like, God,
I don't even want to do it. Yep.
That's me.
Yeah, I don't even want to do it.
Yep.
And so then I had an opportunity where somebody was like, yo, look, why don't you come and open up our other campus and, you'll do great. And this person was a person of influence, a pastor of influence. And so I said, okay, this has got to be it. This is cool. So we move and we start pastoring. Again, boom, the church blows up.
I already know where you're going. Yes, sir.
Last Easter Sunday, I think we had like 700 people, and we had been pastoring just under 2 years at that location. The Wednesday before I'm about to preach on a Wednesday night at our service, I grab my Bible. When I grab my Bible, I feel this pain in my back, and I pass out and slam my head on the ground. They rushed me to the hospital, and they're saying, man, do you have any pain in your chest? I said, no. They do all these tests, and they do an EKG. And the EKG comes up that I'm actually having a massive heart attack. Wow. And I'm 37 now. So I was 31 when this happened.
Wow.
And so I'm sitting there laying on the bed, and I was vegan. I'd been vegan for 15 years.
That part.
So the first thing that went through my head was like, God, if I'm going to go, brother should have had
some
ribs.
red meat. Absolutely. Yeah, bro. With extra sauce.
Ribs, some hot links.
I'm done.
Give me all of it.
I'm so done.
And but then the next thing is they're like, yo, you need to sign your death waiver.
Yeah.
In case anything happens to you, your wife has a right to do it. So I look at my wife, Nadia. Everything's in slow motion. And I begin to feel my body. It's a crazy thing start to slip away.
Yeah, sure.
And I said to God, God, I've always preached what Dr. Miles Monroe had preached, is that the day that you're no longer breathing is the day that God is done with you. But if you still have air in your lungs, God's not done.
Right.
And so I said, God, I'm not done. There's still people who need to know who they are, their identity. They need to know that you love them. They need to understand that they can overcome obstacles. And I said, God, if you take me, I'm swinging on everybody in heaven.
Oh,
David getting
this
these
dude is
hands.
hood.
Paul's getting these
Wow.
hands. Like,
Swinging
I'm
in heaven.
throwing them things, right? Until you put me back in my body. And in that moment, I go into surgery. I wake up the next day. They tell me, man, Mr. Osborne, I don't know if you believe in a higher power, but we did multiple tests. We know you had a heart attack, but there's no sign of damage to your
no
heart.
damage. Mm-hmm.
So here's what happened. So here's how the switch happened. Michael Jordan's The Last Dance documentary comes out. If nobody's ever watching this podcast, do your soul a favor and watch that documentary. So I'm watching Michael, and they asked him a question. They said, "Yo, if last shot is on the line, they named off all of these different incredible NBA players. Who's the ball going to?" And he looked at him like, "Me."
Wait, why would you even ask?
What would you ask? If it's on the line and I got to deal with whether I make it or whether I miss it,
come on, it's on me.
That's on me.
I love that.
Yeah, that's on me. And so when he said it, something inside of my spirit shook.
Yeah, boy.
Because here I was waiting for somebody else to give me the opportunity. From somebody else's life. My life looked like it was good. I made the mistake of comparing where I am from where I used to be, or from where I used to be, meaning when you come from nothing and you've got something,
right.
Your something seems greater than what the nothing was, if that makes sense.
Of course.
So you're saying, man, at least I'm not on EBT and government assistance.
Yeah.
I got a brand new house, $1 million house. We got brand new cars. I'm traveling all over the world. Like, you should be happy with what you have. And in that moment, I wasn't. And I didn't catch it until I was laying on my deathbed and I recognized I was so afraid of the opinions of man. I was afraid of what my friends would think that I had made in the church world, that if I transitioned from being a pastor back into coaching and building up entrepreneurs and their identity, that I would be this wayward
backslider,
renegade,
right? You were
rogue. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no doubt.
Bruh. So I was terrified of that. And so I had a mentor, and he was like, you got to wake up at 4 a.m. That's how you see God. So, bruh, I was waking up at 4 a.m., half asleep. I'm like nodding off. Nadia would walk in the room, and she'd be like, babe. And I'm like, amen. I was just sitting in the presence, baby. Like, I was trying to marinate. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And she's like, no.
She said no.
You ain't fooling me, bro.
Come on, man.
No.
Nadia knows you. Nah.
She knows me. And so she's like, nah. And so I remember I said this to God. It was 4 o'clock, and I said, God, I don't like this. And the voice of the Holy Spirit says, and why you keep doing it?
Because I never asked you.
And so he goes, go back to bed.
Yeah. That's literally how he'll talk. Yep.
So I was like, I can do that?
Absolutely.
So I go to bed. I wake up at 6:30 on my own. Y'all, you would have thought birds were singing louder. The sun was hitting just right. Then I get led. I see this image of this book. Holy Spirit goes, go to the garage. I go to the garage, and here's where it all hits. Listen,
come on now.
I go to the garage. I had this box from a gentleman who had passed away in my church, but the wife knew I loved to read. I go and I see this box that I saw in my head. There's a book. I don't remember the name of the author, but the book was entitled, What You Think of Me Is None of My Business.
I like that. I like that.
So just alone from there, I picked the book up. And it's from like the 80s.
Yeah, it's got to be a classic.
And I just normally look at the front and normally just read from the beginning and then skim through it. I open the book up, and chapter 4 is a chapter that says, God is your source.
Yeah.
So she begins to say that the reason why many of us don't live the life that we truly desire to live is because we have been trapped in a mindset that man is the only person that can give us what God desires to give us. Here's what she goes on to say. We get programmed at a young age by when we go to a doctor's office, or you sitting in church, You want to play.
Yeah.
You want to run around. And what do our parents, for the most part,
sit
they
down.
say, if we go into the, you
Yep,
sit
sit
down.
down
And if you sit down
then
and you do good,
then
yeah, it's conditional for sure.
then
Yep.
you can get up.
ice
Lollipop,
cream, whatever it
ice
is.
cream,
Right. Video game.
100%. You can go play.
Right.
And so right then from when we're young, we are
Condition.
trained
That's
that
right.
if I behave in a way
That's
that is not
acceptable.
natural to
Right,
me
Right.
or not
true.
acceptable to
Yeah.
somebody else,
That's very true.
if I behave that way, then I can get something that's good.
Yeah,
The
reward-based
problem
living.
is as we become adults, we don't lose that mindset.
Yeah, of course.
So anybody who dangles something in front of our face that we really want,
we're like, okay.
we automatic
Yep.
response
Quick.
is, then let me behave how they want me
Yeah.
to, because they're the only one
That have
that
that.
can give me what I want to
Yeah.
get. And so the moment that I recognize that God is my source,
Yeah, you don't need nobody
was the
else's
moment that I
carrot.
recognized that if God is our source, man can only be a resource. They can
Yeah.
only re-give what
Yeah.
God has told them to give to us.
That's right.
And so I recognize that I can be 100% authentically Jeff, and God will bring whoever he needs to bring to bless me.
Yeah.
And I don't have to become like somebody else to get what God has. And so the moment that I repurposed or changed and shifted my satellite to recognizing if God wants me to have it, I don't care if it's the president of the United States,
It'll get to
nobody
you.
is going to stop me from having
That's right.
That's right.
what I want to have. And that began the process of me
Woo,
breaking out of
man.
that.
Well, thank you guys for joining us
That's
yet
it.
again on another
Podcast
episode of Aspire Higher
over.
Podcast with Charles and Yvana Bailey. Where can they reach you? No.
Yeah.
My
That was it.
brother. Hey, I love it. That's
Strong
man,
confidence,
It's just the
man.
coolest thing, man.
Wow.
To look at the lives that God will allow us to be a part of
Yeah.
and the connections. But man, sincerely, you just dropped some incredible wisdom. I'm
Yeah,
so
you did.
grateful to hear that. So that beginning of the shift started everything for you, man. I mean, you're an author. You've written 3 books. You got devotional ebooks. You coach all over the place. Where in the process of facing 16 years to life did Jeff see himself? Because I heard about the heart attack, but was there something else that precluded that?
Yeah, so before all of that, I knew that when I was incarcerated, the guys that were on my team, we were going out to LA to get some tattoos, and some of the guys were like, "Hey, can we use your car to go get some chips and soda?" So these are my
Yeah, your
boys.
boys. Yeah.
So I'm like, "Yeah, cool, take the car." So I'm waiting at the spot, and they go and they rob 2 people. And then I find out that they robbed more and more and more. So I'm driving. I'm like, "Yo, where you guys at?" I get in the car. I'm driving home. And all of a sudden, the car behind us, we're in LA, pulls up behind us, guns drawn, 2 helicopters, 4 canine units. I'm
Oh,
looking at the
man.
dudes in the car like, what's going on?
Yeah.
They're not saying anything. At this time, I'm the only 18-year-old out of the group, and everybody else is 17. And so they separate me from them. They're asking me what's going on. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, why are you robbing people? I don't know what you're talking about. So I don't see any of the other guys.
Of course.
So they're like, you're going to LA County Jail. So I get booked in. And one of the other guys they found out was 17 or was about to turn 18. So then he moved in there with me. I'm asking him what happened. Come to find out that he tells me that they had robbed some people. They'd gotten some money. I didn't know anything about it, but because they used my car, they charged me as an accessory.
Of course.
And so now I'm in there, and the officers tell the guys, yo, look, if you guys just say, it was him because he's 18, we can give him more time. And so I'm in there, and I just kind of like, okay, God, everything that I've learned about you in the Bible that I walked away from, I need you right now.
I want it now.
And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
like I'm like, yo, God, if I'm gonna do everything that this Bible says, and I just need you to show me that you're real because I got real issues.
Right.
And so while I was in there, nobody could save me. The guys who were my friends were lying and sharing all of this stuff. I can't defend or say anything because I don't know the details of anything other than I wasn't there.
Right.
And so I'm going through this whole entire thing, but while I'm there, God starts doing things in my mind. I start reading. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor
Mm.
Dad. I get a hold of Napoleon Hill,
Of
Think and
course.
Grow
Think and Grow
Rich.
Rich.
I begin, so James P. Gill is another small-time author, but he was a psychologist.
Wow.
So I'm reading about the psychology of mindsets, and I'm reading the Word of God, and I'm looking around. I'm like, man, this place is so dark.
Yeah,
If
bro.
I can just start spreading some light in here, then I'm
Mm.
going to dedicate my life to spreading light to other
Wow.
people.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I'm in there, I'm fighting my case. The race riots happen in LA, the largest race riots.
Yeah.
And as I'm there, God just begins to start showing me who he is by me praying for people, and the miracles, they would get let off their case.
Whoa.
And then I prayed for another person, they would get off their case. And then pretty soon I got the nickname Preacher Boy. And before we would go to LAX courthouse, they'd be like, yo, Preacher Boy, can you say a prayer for us? So Bloods, Crips, Sureños, those are essays, or even those who were in white supremacist group, they would all ask me to pray.
Wow.
I would pray
That's
for
interesting.
them, and then they would get off their cases like
Stop.
this, left and right. Something happened. Police tampering with evidence. So I'm like, dang, God, you're doing it for them.
I was
but you
waiting
about
for
me?
you to say it.
What
Yeah, and
about
that's
me?
how he'll do. You're the miracle, but
what
you're in the
about
place
me?
where he needs you to be the performing miracle.
Correct.
But you're like, but can
feel
I
me?
get out?
I just
like,
want a little bit.
You
Just
feel
help me.
me? 100%. I'm like, God, I'm doing everything that you're asking me to do. These guys are lying.
Yeah.
And I can't even, they're pointing fingers saying it's you, it's me, they're leading witnesses. I mean, it was so crazy.
Wow.
I had scholarships for football. I had all the
Oh.
coaches from the different colleges sending in, like, this is not who he is. This is not his
Yeah.
character. Never been in trouble.
Yeah.
But in all of this that's happening, God just keeps doing small things that lets me know that he's real.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking small things, you guys, like Wednesdays with chocolate chip muffin Wednesdays. So I'm like, man, God, I'm hungry. I would like another chocolate chip muffin.
Oh, man.
I'm sitting down, and this OG, this older gentleman, walks up and he goes, yo, here, youngster, and tosses me a bag with 2 chocolate chip muffins. Like something simple like that.
Yeah, but that's a
that
huge
God
miracle in those doors, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that
Huge.
doesn't just happen.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
And that begins to show me that God says, listen, just because you don't see the big blessing,
Come on.
doesn't mean that I'm not giving you small ones
That's
to let
right.
you know
That's
the
right.
big one is on its
That's
way.
right.
That's right.
And if we're constantly looking for God to give us the big breakthrough, the
You'll
big
miss.
blessing, but we disregard,
Woo!
come on,
Every time.
Despising
Come
the
on.
small beginnings.
That's right. Wow.
you cursing a field that you're expecting God to bless you on because you're not seeing the harvest size that you want to see.
Right.
And so we can't curse the field that God is blessing us on just because it's not yielding the type of fruits that we want to see right then and
That's
there.
right.
And so I begin to thank God, and then I begin to pour into people, and then I begin to see their lives change, and then I begin to see the power of God at work. And so they come to me and they say, okay, look, Jeff, if you go to trial, you'll get off because you didn't do anything, but your crimee who was there is going to get 32 years to life. And I was praying, and I'm like, okay, God, tell me what to do.
Right.
Because your boy's already been in here for 8 months fighting my case. I lost all of my scholarships.
Wow.
Race riots are happening. I got a scar where a gang member tried to cut my neck open with a razor blade in the middle of the race riot.
Wow.
And so I'm like, God, what am I going to do? And this is the moment that God is silent. I hear nothing. He's been talking
The whole
to me
time.
the whole time.
Whole time.
Yeah.
Leading you.
Leading me.
Come on.
Like,
Come on.
and then all of a sudden you want to go silent now?
Yeah. Come on,
And
test.
I remember it was the Thursday before Easter Sunday. They call a surprise service. So I go, and this girl sings that song, Run to Jesus, Run to Jesus. And I just got on my knees and I broke. I just started crying because I was like, God, you've been talking to me so clear with everything.
Yeah.
And now that I got this question, do I go to trial?
Yeah. No.
Or do I not? What do I do?
Right.
And I remember going back to the dorm, and I'm in super maximum security because my points are so high because of the crime.
Yeah.
I close the door and I'm bawling in this bathroom stall, debating whether or not I'm going to give up on God.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, I've done everything that you've asked me to
sure.
do. I've dedicated, I'm consecrated. I ain't looking at crazy magazines.
Yeah, I feel
I'm
you.
not cussing. I'm not drinking Pruno. Like, God, I'm
Yeah.
trying to, that's like house-made
Yeah, that's
wine, like
in the
prison-made
jail.
wine.
No doubt.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, God, I'm not doing any of those things. I'm honoring you, but why can't you honor my hard work right now? Why can't you honor what I'm doing right
Why
now?
can't you honor my hard work right now? Think of the
Why can't
people
you do it?
asking this question and they're not in prison.
Mm,
But go ahead. I just had to
yeah,
make sure I highlighted that.
100%. Well, yeah, absolutely. And then God said these words to me. I'll never forget. He said, Jeff, you remember when you said you wanted to be an evangelist?
Got him.
And I said, yeah. He goes, you don't put in requests where you want to go.
Got him.
Man, I called my mom and I said, hey, Mom,
Yeah.
I'm going to negotiate for them to give my crimee a lesser deal. And I'll take whatever they give me.
What?
Because he wasn't going to survive. They were going to give him
Yeah, I
32.
already
The
know what you're
man wasn't
saying.
going to survive in
Wow.
there. Like, it was bad. So I said, if they give him a less deal, I'll take whatever they give me. And which ended up being, they gave him, it went from 32 years to life to 4 years, and he would have to serve 85%. And the deal that was on the table for me was 16 years to life. And so when I go through the process, I head off, he gets his deal. I hit the Chino State Prison. Now, mind you guys, remember I told you I live in Chino Hills.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I get to Chino is the
people know
next
you.
city
Yeah.
next to Chino Hills.
Yeah.
So I'm pulling in, I'm looking at the neighborhoods, the city that I grew up in. I'm so close, but I'm so far.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
And so they put me, when I get there, they put me in solitary confinement. So I'm locked down 24 hours a day. I'm eating with my hands. It's pitch black.
Wow.
And they took everything from me except my Bible.
Wow.
And it was the worst mistake the devil ever did.
Yeah, I would say you locked the
Because
man in the room
when I
with
tell
all
y'all,
the tools.
Tore it up.
Yeah.
man, when I tell
Tore it
y'all
up.
that I understood what Paul said, that even though
Yeah.
I'm in
I was
chains,
just
I'm
thinking
free.
that. I literally was just
And I'm
thinking that.
watching God. I'm ministering to people
on.
from the bars and in prison. And I find out that the guys who were in the case lied and put it all on me. And the officer said that we'll give you guys community service, even though, they admitted to it. They were caught. And so I held my ground, and I did a move to pretty much sacrifice my freedom so that my boy could have his freedom. And while I was in there, they moved me to a level 4 prison yard. My cellie was 21 years old with 7 life sentences. And what I did not know, I'm 11 and a half months into this thing, and they say, Osborne, roll it up. I'm like, where am I going now? I think I'm back up to court. So I'm thinking they're adding gang allegations, something going on. And I get to court, and they say, upon reviewing your letter, I said, what letter?
Wow.
And they said, you got a letter on your behalf from the assistant warden of Chino State Prison. I never saw him, never met him, never shook his hand. And he said, this is a good young man who hit a bump in the road, let him go. And so what they did was they switched my number to what's called the Z number. In other words, they were like, look, we're going to observe him for 90 days. And if in 90 days he gets no write-up, he gets nothing like that, then we'll send him home. If he does, then he gets the sentence that was
there
attached to that. And so I didn't know anything about it. And when I go to court, they tell me, and he lets me free. And the moment he let me free was this moment that I recognized how dangerous it was to not know who you are, how dangerous it is to think that you can get success, or because I always wanted to say, God, look, I'll go to the NFL and I'll be a pastor. I'll be like Reggie White.
Right.
The more the NFL became a reality, the more God walked out the picture.
That's right. Sure.
100%. And so just through this whole thing of me changing lives and recognizing how God's word, how motivation, how encouragement can shift and change somebody's thoughts, I decided that I was going to dedicate the rest of my life to helping people realize what's inside of them so that they don't end up getting caught up in the prison that they're in right now, feeling frustrated and feeling upset. And I think that's what gave me the stickability to stay in my purpose and my calling when nobody was asking me to speak, when I was digging through trash cans, wearing a suit jacket, so that I could remind myself that I still had a purpose to provide for my family.
Oh, man.
It was what I used when I was using T-shirts for diapers for our son. and we couldn't afford fever medication.
Yeah.
When my wife became permanently disabled, and I'm doing everything I can, but nobody will hire me
Yeah.
because of my past, and I can't scrub toilets. And so I think
Wow.
that when you ask me what did it, it was that moment that led me to the place where I'm at, where it brought me to that moment of hopelessness where you're doing God's work.
Yeah.
God's not honoring your work at that time, or you feel like he's not honoring
he's
that
not.
work.
Yeah.
You feel like he's not honoring it. And I'm digging through trash because I'm showing up to EBT, government assistant office, in suits
Yeah.
because I refuse to look like what I'm going through.
Mm.
And I feel like that's something that I think a lot of us struggle with, because if our life is jacked up, we look like what
Of
we're
course.
going through.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when I would put on that suit jacket, when I was digging through trash cans, it was to remind myself that I'm not going to look like what I'm going through.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so going through that process, nobody asking me to speak, I felt like God wanted me to preach and speak. And so I would wake up at 6 a.m. And I would go to the Panera Bread, and I had no food, no money, no nothing. I would get a hot cup of water, and I would just act like there was coffee. And I would drink it, envisioning that I had coffee. When somebody would leave, I'd reach over to their plate and put it in front of me and imagine that I just paid for my own meal, but I had no money. And I would sit there, create messages, sermons, all of these things. And so that kind of just put that fire in me to keep building and to make sure that people can overcome that.
So again, thank you so much
Podcast
for
over.
visiting
Goodbye.
us on Aspire Higher Podcast with Charles and Yvana Bailey.
Like, what?
I tried to tell you. I was like, first of all, Jeff, man, I love what you said. You and I had a conversation before, and I want to say I honor him for what I'm about to say, because you were expressing that your discernment and your ability to sense and see people that God has intentionally connected you with. And the fact that you saw in us something that you wanted to connect with means a lot to me, right? And I'm honored. I'm humbled by it. And I'm saying that because when I was telling her about you, I was able to talk about you in such a way as if I know you, because you're so sincerely honest, who you are, that it makes it very easy to communicate to others, because it's not the image of who you are, it's the fullness of who you are.
Correct.
So she was able to grasp it. And so hearing you speak, and I know my audience, I'm speaking for them to you, I'm pretty sure hearing you were probably like, wow, one, how refreshing, two, how empowering, three, how challenging, which is why we love this podcast all together, because on all of it, you just gave a master class.
Yeah, you did.
Of seeing yourself where you want to be.
Come on.
Even when you don't have it, still doing the work. Even when you think you're at your lowest, you're actually not. Yeah. You could be at the highest point, just not giving this honor its due. And then even to the point where you said not looking like where you are or where you've been. I used to hear this when I used to work in the corporate world. They would say, dress for the job you want, not the job that you have.
Of course.
But the reality of what you've done, you were literally, and wow, how powerful this is, because everyone loves to talk about manifestation, but they don't understand the power. No, they don't get it.
Not even close. The principle of
this is what it really is, because in essence, you took something that was already in existence from an eternal perspective. It already belonged to you. Yeah. And you manned it. You managed your day. You managed your time. You managed who you were all the way up to the point in which it became real. That is the manifestation principle, because it's not magic. Yeah. It's the ministry 100%. Of self. Yeah. It's the ministry of self. And I'm so glad to see you speak this way and be able to speak this way, because, bro, the way that you conveyed your message and what you've been through, but who you are and what you're doing now, and the fact that you're helping other people who wouldn't even give you time.
The time.
It's such an incredible testimony that I just want to praise you, praise God, bless you for blessing us, man. This is incredible. I just want to make sure I gave you flowers where I had a moment to do so.
That's it. That's it. And it's so beautiful. Your truth is your truth. Yet now we all know, and it's rich, it's tangible, it's evident that God is true in your life and that He saves you. He is a redeemer.
He's a redeemer, man.
He's a redeemer. Come on. That word alone, you think about the time you put in, the time you had, the time that was sentenced for you, the time, and He redeemed it all.
Right.
No one would ever guess looking at you. No one would ever guess. No one.
But let's also think about this, bro. I'm gonna be real with you. I mean, you're a real dude. If I was in your position, I probably wouldn't have done any of the things you did.
He wouldn't have. Not even
He
close.
said he
Yeah.
wouldn't have.
Absolutely not.
My boy,
No.
lesser
Yeah.
sentence.
Yeah.
Oh
No.
no,
No.
I did
Not
write a
today.
letter, sir. I
Not
wrote it to
today.
the warden myself, and I wrote about him and
Word of
him and
myself.
him and him. Shoot, I'd have put the lunch lady in there. I don't even care.
Yeah, hella.
It's messed
Yeah.
up.
Yeah,
It's true, though.
yeah,
That's what he would have
real
done.
talk.
Oh no, I'm out of this deal.
But look at the redemption.
And again, but I'm
The
saying
sacrifice
that,
led to
yeah.
his redemption.
But he also,
I love that.
but I also want to say this for someone that's listening, because this is what the truth of sacrificing, or rather laying your life down for a friend. It doesn't mean that the person's justified. Doesn't mean that.
100%.
Do you understand?
100%.
Yeah.
Do you understand? But the fact of the matter is that he was conscious enough to say, because I know this person doesn't have the audacity, tenacity, or the proclivity. Big words. Been reading a little bit.
It was kind of big.
Hello, I
Dang
see
it.
I see them SAT words.
To withstand this test.
Yeah.
And because he also saw that this was the platform of his ministry, he was willing to endure it.
Absolutely.
If this was his cross, he was willing to bear it
Yeah.
in order for
Yeah.
someone else to have life. And bro, you just gave
Come on.
the gospel in a nutshell.
Period.
Man, wow.
You don't
Wow.
think about the reflection of the gospel that your
Yeah.
life has lived.
That's right. And we're so proud of you.
Man.
Beyond, you could have quit. You could have just ended it, to be honest.
And I didn't want to say that earlier because when you
as
said
real as he's been,
when you were when you said you were on your knees and you were there in the little
Aw.
stall, you were debating
could've
whether or
been
not, for many people,
that could have been it.
the stress, just like that was your Garden of Gethsemane. Have you ever put that together?
Man, well, you know what? I didn't even put it together, but I will say this now that you said it, is even in the midst of all of that happening,
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking a time of, I think it was a window of, I want to say 3 or 4 years that I saw no fruit.
Mm.
And I was working that. I remember a day that I had to go tell our landlords that I couldn't afford our rent.
Yeah.
And they had already reduced it. So I'm driving and I just hear, hey man, you might as well kill yourself. Death would be a relief compared to the hell that you're going through.
Audibly heard that.
And so I took my car
Yeah.
and I drove it towards a pole at 60 miles an hour to end my life.
Yeah.
I jumped the curb, take my hands off the wheel,
And I said, whatever will be.
and I'm waiting for this. I don't know what I was waiting for, but I was done. I felt like less. I felt like I wasn't a good father. I felt like a terrible husband. I felt like I wasn't a man at all because I couldn't provide. I felt like every time I showed up to EBT, or every time I looked at another opportunity that I didn't have something, I was reminded of my sin or a mistake that I made from my past choices that weren't the best choice, to hang around these individuals, but to want identity and want a belonging. That I jumped the curb, took my hands off the wheel, I closed my eyes, I hear all this noise, and then it's silent. And then I hear tapping on the window. And then when I hear the tapping on the window, I'm like, does it rain in heaven?
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking in my head, like, oh shoot, maybe I'm not in heaven if it's raining.
Yeah.
And then I open my eyes, and I'm perfectly parallel parked on the side of the road and have no idea how I got there. The craziest thing is I get out my car, it's raining. So it's like a movie. I'll just get on my knees and I said, God, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore. My parents, out of all the streets
Of
No.
the world.
to turn down,
Wow.
of the world, happened to be coming down this street and taking a different way home and see me.
Come on, orchestration.
Wow.
So they're like, what's going on? I said, I can't do it. Like, I'm done. And God
Yeah.
said, son, I got something for you. Just hold on. And in those moments, when we struggle and we feel like, God, you don't hear me, and God, you don't see my work, death seems so comforting.
Yeah.
When you are dealing with the burden of trying to pursue a calling. And it gets even heavier when you're trying to become somebody that you've never met before.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to break through generational
Bro.
trauma.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
I'm trying to break through generational mindsets.
Yes. Curses.
And so then
everything.
how do I become more than my trauma? how do I become more than the limiting mindsets that my family has adopted? And how do I break free to have a life that's completely different than what I've ever known, with no handouts, with
That's
no
right.
help?
Yeah,
I
like
didn't
I
have
did
a
this by
rich
myself.
auntie.
That's right.
Wow.
So we're taught that it's about our hustle, it's about our
Yeah.
The grind.
grind.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and God spoke to me, says, nowhere in my Bible will
Do I
you see
talk
the
about
words
that?
hustle and grind.
Nowhere. Not even a word that is, what is the word? Like, yeah, it's just not there.
Come on.
Not a one.
Yeah.
Not
But
once.
you will see faithful
Yeah.
and committed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You will see obedient.
Yes, you will.
Yes, you
And
will.
so I feel like what happens is, like, even when Samuel was speaking to King Saul, and he was saying to him, like, yo, look, I told you to hold off on doing this. I told you to hold off on doing this sacrifice.
Yeah, but you want to do it your way.
But you want to do it your way. And he said, man, obedience is better than sacrifice. To heed, to listen, than the fat of rams. And the Lord spoke to me. He says, I got too many of my children dying on the altar of sacrifice.
Yeah.
And you're mad at me because you keep sacrificing sleep. You're sacrificing your family. You're sacrificing time. You're sacrificing your health.
And I didn't ask for none of that.
I didn't ask you to sacrifice none of that. I just asked you, can you be obedient?
That's all he wants, man.
I just need you to be obedient to who I've called you to be and what I've called you to do.
That's it.
Come on.
So obedience is better than your sacrifice.
Yeah.
And the Lord began to work with me, and he said, son, you continually staying obedient is what is going to bless you. I kid you not, a week later, I get a call from this strange man with a strange accent saying, hey, hello, is this Jeffrey Osborne? And I was like, yeah. He says, hi, this is Prime Minister so-and-so, and we heard that you were involved in gangs, and your life used to be kind of, dodgy, and so we wanted to know if you would help us.
Kind of dodgy.
Yeah, like in Bermuda, we've got this gang problem, and we really want to, we want your help. And I don't know if it's an English accent. Well, that's the best I could think of.
Yeah, you did a good job, man. I was thinking UK, but all right.
So I tell him this. I said, how far is that drive?
Wow.
And he looked at, like the phone went silent. And he goes, no, you would have to fly. And I was like, oh, the country of Bermuda. And guys, my wife and I moved out there. They put us in a $40 million home in the middle of Hamilton Harbor. I was training 600 government officials, the vice president, the president of the country, on how to disengage active gang members, how to, at 22 years old, God did it just like that.
Of all,
just
like,
just
do you
like
understand?
That.
Like, wait.
Yeah.
He got out, what was 18, 19? When did he get out?
I got out, I was 19.
19,
and
22.
3 years or so later.
Redemption. Okay. Just trying to check there with the math.
And redemption didn't look like redemption at that moment, because even in that moment, financially, nothing had changed.
Nothing had changed.
True, too. That's true.
Except that we got, we're getting a little bit of a stipend. And again, that wasn't really helping that much. So when the time ended and we end up moving back home, now I'm back. And so God would give me these like hits of purpose, hits of these destinies, hits of these great speaking, but it's never engagements, and then I would go back to nothing.
That's right. That's deep, right. Man. And that hurts as an evangelist, and of course, even if you're gifted prophetically, because that's typically how it works.
Yeah, it's like the yo-yo effect.
And then when it gets feeling good, you're out.
You're out. And so I was frustrated because my wife was like, "Yo, when are we gonna stop having to live by faith? Like when can we just know that we're gonna have stability?
Right.
Yeah.
When are we gonna know?" And so I think why this is so huge, and I love how Holy Spirit's kind of guiding this conversation, is because the greatest lesson that I learned happened last year. I was coaching a client, and I was reading Watchmen. I got it right here. This book, for me, other than the Bible, is the greatest spiritual book that completely changed my life. Secret to Spiritual Power by Watchman Nee.
I've heard of Watchman Nee. Watchman Nee, from what I understand, is an incredibly powerful writer, period.
The boy from the early 1900s, the boy was bad, but he said something. He says, listen to this. If you're watching this podcast, you're going to want to pause this, repeat it, play it, turn it up. This is what Watchman said.
Hit subscribe before you do. All right, go ahead.
hit subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast. You need to subscribe to the Aspire Higher podcast. But he says this. He says that when you're gifted, there are two major sins that gifted people make that rob them from their destiny. The first one is the sin of disobedience.
Okay.
That is not moving when God tells you to move.
All right.
Disobedience. What did God tell you to do in your business?
Yeah.
What did he tell you to do with your family? What did he tell you to do with your walk? What did he tell you to do?
Yeah,
Right.
And you're not moving? That's the sin of disobedience.
Okay.
Understood.
The second, he said, is what robs more people than ever before, and it's the sin of presumption.
Presuming upon
Whoa.
God. Yeah.
So the sin of disobedience is not moving when God tells you to move. The sin of presumption is presuming you know how he wants you to move, but you don't ask him how he wants 100%. You to move. So if God wants me, so he said, I want you to be a pastor. I assumed that it meant I had to be in the four walls of a church.
Man, bro,
that's a whole.
Come on, bro.
That's another podcast.
This is why. This is
wow.
This is my dude right
You
here.
feel me? So that sin of presumption led me to all of those years of me being hurt, my family being hurt, having to deal with casualties of my presumption.
100%. Walk that.
And
trust me.
It wasn't until God said, if you would have just asked me, I would have told you that I wanted you to be a pastor to CEOs.
Yeah. Earlier than this.
I wanted you to be a pastor. Like, I could have avoided
all these years,
lot of
10
headache.
years. That's right. That's why they say most overnight successes are 10 years in the making. And God the whole time was like, I could have done it the first year.
First year. One and done.
Man, talk like, bruh, you are talking, Yvonne, you guys, and I think, so what I began to do was I knew that I was called, and I stopped trying to guess how God wanted me to move. And I began to seek him in prayer and say, okay, God, if you show it to me, then I'll do it. And then that's when God began to just breathe in these moments. And so hearing what you guys are saying and even seeing that, I would have ended it. But I think I thank God that I had the voice of the Holy Spirit that began to nudge me in obedience. That. My Grammy said this. She says, if your life is stuck, go back to your last place of disobedience, because God will not bless you beyond that point.
Come on, wisdom from Grandma.
You know
Let's go, Grammy. That was
from
it.
Grammy.
Yeah, that's
from the
that's
OG Grammy right there. That.
Bottom line.
But, you know how many that right there would have saved so many people had we learned it in our teenage years.
Now, as adults, it'll save somebody right now watching and listening. Because that's the answer, okay?
If you're stuck.
Here's what's the funny thing. I'm going to add some wisdom to that wisdom, because wisdom is my friend. She's
come
beautiful
on,
to me.
Come on.
The thing about it is the Bible talks about, especially wisdom, she's like, if you will actually turn at my reproof. Reproof.
Yeah.
So in essence, you don't forget that moment of last disobedience.
Of course
and it will follow you. See, what happens is we get to a certain age where we think, okay, time has passed. It's been 20 years since. And yet the Holy Spirit, all those years is pointed inside of you. That little thing, that time, that moment is still the moment. And until you go back to that moment, you will not go forward. And that's why you have people who are 70, 80, and even 90 who wish and still want to do things. And they think it's just that they didn't have the courage to fulfill their dreams.
Come on.
No, it's because they have not repented. And see, here's what's beautiful about them too. You can say sincerely, you can come to a point of real repentance, and he can waive all of that
quick
in a moment. It may not even be that you have to actively go back and make it right. He's like, I just wanted to make sure that you were right before I moved you forward.
Posture. Yeah.
Tell you, bro. Love wisdom, man.
That's money. And I think but he gets us to believe that we have to start all over.
And that's not the case.
He continues to have us go the wrong way, because I'm already committed. I don't want to start over. Guys, hold on. If you mess up, you're not starting over. You're just starting where you last left off.
That's it.
And then that's what begins to change everything. That's what becomes, the operating factor is God. I would rather not keep going the wrong way, because I've been going this way for the last 5 years.
Where am I going? Just where am I going?
And that's all just stop me, Lord.
Stop.
Like, look now, you ain't got to just stop me.
Look, and I tell you this, I want to make sure I almost pulled this out. That was the big game changer. We had been 10 years pastoring, and then the moment that we recognized, I just say, yo, God, okay, I got it. I'm good. I'm gone.
I'm gone.
Like that quick. And
Yeah.
God said, thank you. Now let me give you everything that I wanted to give you.
Sure.
And then put you back on path. And so now, Naughty Night, you guys are just, we're living this incredible life. We got ownership in tech companies. We got a luxury donut franchise that we own.
Wow.
We're traveling around the world. God is opening these doors. And it's as though that all of the time of obedience and all of the sacrifices as though it was nothing.
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Of course it makes sense. Yes,
because that's also
yes.
what we forget is on the other side of obedience. And when he redeems time, he redeems the mind too. So all of that comes back as if it never existed. Bro,
that's right.
Before I move forward, let me just go ahead and make this pitch to you. You've now been on this podcast, and I'm sure the experience has been a great one for you. We're seeking sponsors.
Help.
I got you, brother. I'm tracking where you going.
I caught you nodding too, and you know, and I mean, I'm a healthy eater. My wife is too. We're not quite vegan, but we could use a few donuts.
I love donuts. I've recently discovered I love donuts.
We've been delivered, but I'm just saying we got vegan donuts.
Okay,
we got regular donuts. We got y'all.
Okay, all right, my dude. Hey man, that's two. Hey, I'm just saying that's just what I do, man.
Slick.
Hello.
And look, I caught him nodding too. He's like,
already agreed.
Yeah, I got you. I'm going right way. Look, we got you guys. You guys need some donuts. We're going to sponsor y'all.
All right.
Get you guys laid out.
Done.
Nice.
Yeah,
done.
No doubts, man. Well, you don't make dollar donuts, right? We can't eat dollars.
Wow.
We can't eat
dollars. Okay.
Hey, but you can resell them donuts for dollars.
Okay.
Come on, entrepreneur. See?
Entrepreneur,
man. He's quick.
I literally am trying to...
Him?
Yeah, no doubt. This is why I love it, man. I love this.
Trained in the game. You hear me?
Bro, man, let me tell you something, man. This has blessed me.
And me.
And I know it's blessed my wife.
100.
Always just so grateful to be in the presence of great individuals. And I've said this before on my podcast, and I mean this, and I mean this even from an audience listening. It's an honor as a man to be in connection with other great men of faith, men of valor, men of courage, strength, trying to be the best man they even, to be honest with you, hadn't seen before. And then to have my spouse to be able to see that as examples of men who are sincere being men, but men of God, and who are sincere about their relationship with their spouse, but also themselves. So again, this is just for me saying to you as another man, black man, I see you, of course, but just also to say how encouraging it is, because these relationships are also a testament of the man that I am yet still becoming and trying to be.
For sure.
But intentionally working towards. So I'm grateful that you are yet another person in our lives, but in my life. So I know how important that is for men to say that to other men. Girls a lot of times can say it to each other, but we have to say it to each other as well, bro. But man, I wish that we had more time. I hate it. In fact, I really want to talk for about 30 more minutes if we had it, but we want to respect your time, man. And we'll have to do a part 2, because I know your audience, our audience would love to see you more and hear more and the way we interact. So where can they find you? Website, and then you have 3 books. Incredible. You can talk about them if you like to, and then social media.
Man, well, first off, they can reach me on social media at Jeff T. Osborne. I'm gonna tell you the reason why I said T is because my name is Jeffrey Osborne.
Yeah.
And so every time I say my name, people ask me, "Can you woo?"
Yeah, they think about the singer.
Yeah,
you're like, that's not me.
Love. I'm like, I'm not LT. You know what I'm saying? I'm not. That's not me.
Wait.
I even asked you. I was like, can he sing? He's a musician.
I was like, that's not him. I was like, it's the other Jeff T. Jeff T.
Gotta be specific.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Jeff T. Osborne.
So it's Jeff T. as in Tom, Osborne. That's all my socials. X, Instagram, Jeff T. Osborne. That's on TikTok, Jeff T. Osborne. And then my website is jefftosborne.com. On there, I have my 3 books. I love that you guys mentioned it. This one is Prison Break. I just talked about this one. So if you struggle with people pleasing, this is the one that I have tests in here that shows you what type of level of a people pleaser you are. Oof. And there's levels to it. I mean, that's probably going to be podcast number 3 that we end up having when we talk about that. The other book that I wrote was it's called God Morning. This is my physical copy. We sold out, but we have the e-copy, and this is a 31-day declaration devotional.
Love it.
And so it goes into scripture, how to declare and speak life over yourself, and this is what I put up. Everybody knows me for saying God morning.
Yeah.
And I say that instead of just saying good morning, it's a God morning.
I like that.
And so you see it on our apparel, our clothing line is God morning. And that just lets people know, look, when I started my day off, it wasn't just a good morning, it was a God morning.
Come on.
No doubt.
So it's going to be a God type of day.
That's it.
And then
Set up for the win. Set it up.
Hey. And then my first book that I wrote is called Buy the Dang Coffee. And I wrote this book right after I was in the crux of everything. And the tagline is one sip is worth the risk. And in here I talk about how did I take the faith to stay the course the way I did? What are the principles I used to get to where I am now? There are principles of risk that we have to understand. But at the end of the day, you'll hear the story of why the coffee is so significant in here. But I talk about the steps that you need to take to have that risk and then end up sipping the reward that comes from taking that risk. And so those are the 3 books that I have on there. And I have a course that comes with this one as well, where I break it down every chapter, give you a little bit more into this. But so that's what I have. And you can also inquire for identity coaching. So if you're trying to figure out who you are, what you do, you can inquire for coaching. And my team will make sure we set something up.
My man. Well, this is literally going to be the 3rd time I've closed the show.
End it.
All right.
This is it.
Well, I've already said it a few times. What you got?
I got to say this.
Say it.
I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you, Charles and Yvana, for what you guys are doing, not only for the kingdom, but for the work that you're doing. I'm excited for the new book, right? You guys launched
bro. Yes, sir.
Tell them behind you.
I don't know if you can see this on your screen, that we just got awarded with Amazon bestseller because we literally, both hard copy and paper copy are bestsellers and debuted #1 in Christian business and personal growth. So, dude, the Lord, bro. Yeah.
So listen. As soon as we off, you're gonna see a little ding for my copy, because I'm definitely getting that, and I need a sign though. If y'all let the team know as they package it, and make sure they sign it for your boy. But I'm saying this because what you guys are putting out, the content, your heart behind it, and I think we shared that there's 582 millionaires that they say in the United States, 582 million. Entrepreneurs in the United States. Okay. Out of that, only 30% of those are actually Christians. And so out of that 30%, that's like 182 million. Out of that 182 million, only 0.3% are being served from some type of Christian coach that's there. So out of that 582, 30% of them identify as Christians. I understand. There's 182, I think, million. Out of that 182 million, only 0.3% are being served from some type of faith-centered book, coaching, podcast. And so you guys are adding to this space that we're in, where we're teaching entrepreneurs how to have success God's way. And so I want to honor your faithfulness. I want to honor your persistence. I want to honor what God is doing in your life as leaders, as entrepreneurs. I'm so blessed to be able to be here with y'all. So I can't wait for y'all to chop it, slice it, dice it, collab with me, because I'm going to hit that collab button on my Instagram.
We will.
People need to know what y'all are doing. So I just want to say from my heart, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this.
Thank you for making time, bro. You're the best, man. Golly, when you in our town, bro, holler at us in the anything.
Oh, you already know.
And of course, if we come that way, we're going to make sure to reach out to you, bro. My dude.
Come on, let's do it.
You want to close out, love?
Go ahead. Hey, I'm still recovering.
Me too. I'm literally like, well, it's been a good one.
I might need some. I need a donut. That's what I'm.
She's hilarious.
My glucose is low.
I got you. Come on.
She said her blood sugar's low. All right, y'all. Well, anyway, sincerely, we are so appreciative of having you being a part of our audience. If you're listening, of course, you can hit that subscribe. If you're watching, hit that subscribe. Please turn on the notifications so that you can get the idea of when we're posting other material, because we, try to bring you the best content we can. Please hit share, because we know you know someone who needs this. It's not just you. Man. Let this reach some of your circles. Again, we appreciate having you. We're so glad to be speaking into your life, and we can't wait to connect with you. Don't forget, the flight of your life, you can buy it anywhere. It's in 90 countries plus. And again, we are a bestseller, so we love to have your vote of confidence by getting your copy if you hadn't already. Thank you so much for your time, my man. You killed it. You crushed it. We're
Thank
so
you.
proud to have you.
Thanks, man.
Have a great God day.